What's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday. I hope you're all having a magnificent day today, or maybe a magnificent evening, whatever, whenever. Sound check real quick. Should be working, but you know what? It's gotten us a couple times now, so it's best to make sure. Oh, come on. I just know it's gonna work eventually. It's like, why is it trying to load two videos at once? Okay. Check, check. Hello? Okay. Nice. All right. It's working. Very good. We love that. So, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another study of Transcendental Magic. I'm Jay Baldale, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to class. Welcome to life. I hope it's treating you swell. Let me get some music playing, and then let's do this thing. Oh, come on. Okay, nice. All right, then. Looking good. So today we're going to be getting into chapter 12 for anybody who's not up to date, who's not caught up on the way the class is unfolding. And our chapter 12 study is going to be about what Éliphas Lévi has to say about the great work. Perhaps you've heard of the great work. Perhaps not. But I think a lot of people would assert that the great work is the point of magic, mysticism, yoga, tantra, spirituality, whatever type. Well, let's see what Éliphas Lévi has to say about that. And, everybody might have well, maybe not everybody, but I'm sure a good amount of people at least have probably their own idea of maybe what the great work means. You hear something like that and you wonder what could it be so great about this work? What does that mean? Well, I think a lot of people get the similar idea with yoga and the idea of union. But what I will say is that I agree with people like Aleister Crowley, who will say things like, or who have said things like, your definitions of things, your different gnosis, downloads, whatever, is going to change. So it's unwise to think that you've got the end all be all answer right off the rip. So that going back to the great work. Once your goddess, what's up? Happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a nice day. But so that going back to something like the great work, I know my idea of the great work has kind of stayed the same since I first encountered it, but also definitely has changed a bit because my understanding has changed, my path has grown and developed, evolved. And so some of those ways in which I interpreted the great work have changed. One true goddess says, the great work is infinite. Oh, what a good student. Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. The great work is infinite. Well, they don't call it the great work for nothing. But I know some people want to just, I don't know, be boring. And LaShawn Q, what's up? Welcome. I hope you're having a good day. Because, yep, when I'm playing a game, then aspects of the game are fun. But when I'm not playing the game, I don't really want to be tripping myself out about the game. I guess it depends on the game. I guess it depends on how good the game is, though, too. If it's a pretty fun game, also a pretty puzzling game, a game that really challenges you, then you just might let it swirl around in your mind a bit, even when you're not playing it. Where you're at work or whatever thinking, I want to get home and play that dang game. That's a fun game. I'm really enjoying that game. Good, then you got your money's worth. Okay, cut the deck, and that's our tarot card. Good, you got your money's worth. But, things like boundaries, things like keeping a healthy, giving things in life a healthy approach is important. So that's where, coming in, things like coming into a mastery of the mind, a mastery of the senses is going to be important, because then you do kind of have that steady reminder, I don't need to be so stressed out about this as I'm getting. However, at a certain point, you're also kind of screwing yourself up by doing that, but time will tell, I guess, what the real deal is. All I'm saying is, it can be easy to miss the point, but also, especially in the early stages, we might convince ourselves we have a certain type of understanding, and then that understanding changes. At least if you're approaching things in that healthy type of way, because some people, they don't care. They just want to stay stuck in their certain types of biases, their certain types of beliefs, fantasies, ideas, etc. So, anyway, with all that being said, let's see. Our tarot card today it's yellow. I see the color yellow. Oh, nice. I flipped it around. Well, there is some yellow in here. Huh. Air. Well, air can be interpreted as yellow in one system of coloring. Like if you're going pentagrams type of way. If you're going topless way, then no, it's going to be blue usually. But in the pentagrams way, then yellow will be your color air, and air is here because this is Gemini, the lovers. Okay. Well, this card is perfect card for us to pull when we're talking about the great work. We also see the Hebrew letter Zion here, which is interpreted as a sword of discernment. Because again, if it's all in the mind, bro, then guess what? You're gonna need that sword of discernment to figure out how you're gonna navigate this realm of the mind, the densest realm of the mind, we could say. Because if it's all a dream for all you super geniuses and experts out there, if it's all just a dream, then why are we all experiencing the same dream all the time? Like, why are we all experiencing the dream the same to the same levels in the same real? Well, we're not. We're not. Everybody's got their subjective, right? But we're talking objectively. We're talking objectively. And objectively, we all experience this realm of earth more or less the same enough that we can repeat certain things over and over again. um and if some people can't, well, hey, operator error. Like, just because you can't use a tape measure doesn't mean a tape measure doesn't work to measure things. And oh yeah, well, I can use a tape measure to hit someone over the head. Yeah, well, you're not using a tape measure the way it's meant to be used. That's fine. Sure, you're giving it a new use, but you're also giving it the improper use, like a lot of people do with this quote unquote dream. So, the lovers. What better way to know the dream than to fall in love with the dream, huh? Some of you really missed the point, but that's all right. Maybe I'm missing the point. Hard to say for sure, I guess. The point of the sword we need to use for discernment. And I can certainly discern between a lot of nonsense out here, and I hope more people start to do that. Um, but also, this card does remind us that all is one is all that type of thing. We see Eve and Lilith both at the top part of this card. So, right, the shadow of femininity, the light of femininity. We see I like the way that Lady Frida Harris painted this up with Crowley's instruction, where you've got the queen here, the black queen, you got the white king getting married, and then the black child and the white child on the opposite side. So there is a very alchemical, a unifying opposites aspect to this card as well, which again goes hand in hand with the great work. Okay, well, I've yapped enough. I actually got to kind of fly through the reading today a little bit because I've got other things to do here soon enough. It's all in the mind, bro. Yep. Well, maybe. Maybe so. Right now this book is both. It's in my mind and it's on this book stand in front of my face. So, what does that say about it's all in the mind? Anyway, let's see what Éliphas Lévi's got to say about the great work. Chapter 12, Lamed El. The number 12 is cyclic. Cyclic, huh? Okay. See, once your goddess is onto something. The great work, Disciti Crux. I think that's how you say it. Again, I'm not a Latin expert. Discite, maybe Disciti Crux. The great work is, before all things, the creation of man by himself, that is to say, the full and entire conquest of his faculties and his future. It is especially the perfect emancipation of his will, assuring him universal dominion over Azoth and the domain of Magnesia. In other words, full power over the universal magical agent. This agent, disguised by the ancient philosophers under the name of the first matter, determines the forms of modifiable substance, and we can really arrive by means of it at metallic transmutation and the universal medicine. This is not a hypothesis. It is a scientific fact already established and rigorously demonstrable. Nicholas Flamel and Raymond Lilly, both of them poor, indubitably distributed immense riches. And we've got a note saying it would be difficult to cite worse instances in support of the alleged scientific fact. Ha, Wait got him good on that one. There is a very strong feeling on the part of scholarship that the Flamel legend is a comparatively late invention, while the alchemical tracts which pass under the name of Lilly are the work of a writer who assumed the name falsely, and the evidence for his transmutations rests upon his own claims and another forged document by an alleged abbot of Westminster. See my Raymond Lilly, Illuminated Doctor, Alchemist, and Christian Mystic. So that's a book of A.E. Waite's he's referring you to. Okay, it's hard to think of a worse one. Yeah, so even as we've been reading this book, we've been seeing the way that there's a lot of good stuff in here, but even old Levi kind of embellished a bit, and we see that a lot in the occult. We see that a lot in life, where people just say things and they don't really care if it's true or not. They want it to be true, and so they'll say it. But if you actually care about the occult, the great work, all of that, then what you should be caring about is truth, truth, capital T, truth, and then the other truths that branch off of that and come from that. So there are certain things that we can just prove time and time again to be true. There are other things that we can speculate at, and maybe we want them to be true, but we can't really prove that it's true. And then, you get like a hold of the Vedic texts, and you start telling yourself that, oh, it's all in the mind, bro. It's all in the mind, bro. And what's beyond the mind? Well, the thing is, you can't point to it, you can't prove it. So how do you know it's true, huh? I'm sure you're going to offer us a course soon enough to let us know. Agrippa never proceeded beyond the first part of the great work, and he perished in the attempt, struggling to possess himself and to fix his independence. Now, there are two hermetic operations, the one spiritual, the other material, and these are mutually dependent. Let's reread that real quick. There are two hermetic operations, the one spiritual, the other material, and these are mutually dependent. The lover's card, huh? Dude, goodness, some of you are ridiculous. For the rest, all Hermetic science is contained in the doctrine of Hermes, which is said to have been originally inscribed upon an emerald tablet. Its first articles have been already expounded, and those follow which are concerned with the operation of the great work. Thou shalt separate the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, gently with great industry. It rises from earth to heaven, and again it descends from heaven to earth, and it receives the power of things above and of things below. By this means shalt thou obtain the glory of the whole world, and all darkness shall depart from thee. It is the strong power of every power, for it will overcome all that is subtle and penetrate all that is solid. Thus was the world created. To separate the subtle from the gross, and the first operation, which is wholly inward, is to liberate the soul from all prejudice and all vice, which is accomplished by the use of philosophical salt, that is to say, wisdom, of mercury, that is, personal skill and application, finally, of sulfur, representing vital energy and fire of will. By these are we enabled to change into spiritual gold things which are of all least precious, even the refuse of the earth. In this sense, we must interpret the parables of the choir of philosophers, Bernard Trevisan, Basile Valentine, Mary the Egyptian, and other prophets of alchemy. But in their works, as in the great work, we must separate skillfully the subtle from the gross, the mystical from the positive, allegory from theory. If we would read them with profit and understanding, we must take them, first of all, as allegorical in their entirety, and then descend from allegories to realities by the way of the correspondences or analogies indicated in the one dogma. That which is above is proportional to that which is below, and reciprocally. The word art, when reversed or read after the manner of sacred and primitive characters from right to left, gives three initials which express the different grades of the great work. T signifies triad, theory, and travail. R, realization. A, adaptation. In the 12th chapter of the ritual, we shall give the process of adaptation in use among the great masters, especially that which is contained in the Hermetic Fortress of Henry Kunrath. We may refer our readers also to an admirable treatise attributed to Hermes Trismegistus titled Minerva Mundi, otherwise the Virgin of the World. It is found only in certain editions of Hermes and contains, in allegories full of profundity and poetry, the doctrine of individual self-creation, or the creative law consequent on the harmony between two forces which are termed fixed and volatile by the alchemists, and are necessity and liberty in the absolute order. The diversity of the forms which is abound in nature, is explained in this treatise by the diversity of spirits and monstrosity by divergence of efforts. Its study and understanding are indispensable for all adepts who would fathom the mysteries of nature and devote themselves seriously to the search after the great work. And we got a note saying, the great work is not chimerical art of creating gold. It is that of directing the natural fire as a gardener directs water to nourish his plants. In this manner, minerals are not created, but matured. When the masters in alchemy say that little time and money are needed to accomplish the works of science, above all when they affirm that one vessel is alone needed, when they speak of the great and unique Athanor which all can use, which is ready to each man's hand, which all possess without knowing it, they allude to philosophical and moral alchemy. As a fact, the strong and resolute will can arrive in a short time at absolute independence, and we are all in possession of the chemical instrument, the great and sole Athanor, which answers for the separation of the subtle from the gross and the fixed from the volatile. This instrument, complete as the world and precise as mathematics, is represented by the sages under the emblem of the pentagram or five-pointed star, which is the absolute sign of human intelligence. I will follow the example of the wise by forbearing to name it. It is too easy to divine. The tarot symbol, which corresponds to this chapter, was misconstrued by Court de Gebelin and Etiella, who regarded it as the blunder of a German card maker. It represents a man with his hands bound behind him, having two bags of money attached to the armpits and suspended by one foot from a gibbet formed by the trunks of two trees, each with the stumps of six looped branches and by a crosspiece, thus completing the figure of the Hebrew Tau. The legs of the victim are crossed, while his head and elbows form a triangle. Now, the triangle surmounted by a cross signifies in alchemy the end and perfection of the great work, a meaning which is identical with that of the letter Tau, the last of the sacred alphabet. This hangman is, consequently, the adept bound by his engagements and spiritualized, that is, having his feet turned towards heaven. He is also the antique Prometheus, expiating by everlasting torture the penalty of his glorious theft. Vulgarly, he is the traitor Judas, and his punishment is a menace to betrayers of the great arcanum. Finally, for Kabbalistic Jews, the hanged man, who corresponds to their 12th dogma, that of the promised Messiah, is a protestation against the Savior acknowledged by Christians. And they seem to say unto him still, how canst thou save others, since thou couldst not save thyself? And a note saying Lévi says otherwise, that the hanged man signifies the completion of the great work from magical ritual of the Sanctum Regnum. In the Sefer Toldos Jeshu, an anti-Christian rabbinical compilation, there occurs a singular parable. Jeshu says the rabbinical author of the legend was traveling with Simon Bar-Jonah and Judas Iscariot. Late and weary, they came to a lonely house, and being very hungry, could find nothing to eat except an exceedingly lean gosling. It was insufficient for 3 persons, and to divide it would be to sharpen without satisfying hunger. They agreed to draw lots, but as they were heavy with sleep, let us first of all slumber, said Jeshu. Whilst the supper is preparing, when we wake, we will tell our dreams, and he who has had the most beautiful dream shall have the whole gosling to his own share. So it was arranged. They slept and they woke. As for me, said St. Peter, I dreamed that I was the vicar of God. And I, said Jeshu, that I was God himself. For me, said Judas hypocritically, I dreamt that, being in somnambulism, I arose, went softly downstairs, took the gosling from the spit, and ate it. Thereupon they also went down, but the gosling had vanished altogether. Judas had a waking dream. This anecdote is given not in the text of the Sefer Toldos Jeshu itself, but in the rabbinical commentaries on that work. And there's a note saying, he has begun by saying that the singular parable occurs in Sefer Toldos Jeshu and now transfers it to a source which no one can check. In the absence of all reference, one can say only that it does not sound like a Jewish parable. Tell him, wait. The legend is a protest of Jewish positivism against Christian mysticism. As a fact, while the faithful surrendered themselves to magnificent dreams, the proscribed Israelite, Judas of the Christian civilization, worked, sold, intrigued, became rich, possessed himself of this life's realities, till he became in a position to advance the means of existence to those very forms of worship which had so long outlawed him. The ancient worshippers of the Ark remain true to the cultists of the strongbox. The exchange is now their temple, and thence they govern the Christian world. The laugh is indeed with Judas, who can congratulate himself upon not having slept like St. Peter. In archaic writings preceding the captivity, the Hebrew Tau was cruciform, which confirms further our interpretation of the 12th symbol of the Kabbalistic tarot. The cross, which produces 4 triangles, is also the sacred sign of the duodenary, and on this account it was called the key of heaven by the Egyptians. So Etiela, confused by his protracted researches for the conciliation of the analogical necessities of this symbol with his own personal opinion, in which he was influenced by the erudite Court de Gebelin, placed in the hand of his upright hangman, by him interpreted as prudence, a hermetic caduceus formed by 2 serpents and a Greek tau. Seeing that he understood the necessity of the tau or cross on the 12th leaf of the Book of Thoth, he should have seen also the manifold and magnificent meaning of the hermetic hanged man, the Prometheus of science, the living man who touches earth by his thought alone, whose firm ground is heaven, the free and immolated adept, the revealer menaced with death, the conjuration of Judaism against Christ, which seems to be an involuntary admission of the secret divinity of the crucified, and lastly, the sign of the work accomplished. The cycle terminated, the intermediary tau, which resumes for the first time before the final denary, the signs of the sacred alphabet. Okay, and then there's a note on all that saying, this is exceedingly obscure, and an intermediary tau is, of course, nonsense in Hebrew. But Lévi is trying to say that the hanged man is suspended from a gallows like a tau, though his symbol is referable otherwise to the letter Lamed, according to his invented tabulation, which happens, however, to be wrong. Right, because the hanged man is typically seen as the Hebrew letter Mem in like the Golden Dawn correspondences or Crowley's, but Lévi has it as Lamed, which would otherwise be the justice card usually, or adjustment. According to, oh wait, I read that part. He calls it intermediate because it is midwise in his tarot sequence, according to which the tau proper of the alphabet answers to the symbol of the world, being the last of the trumps major. Yep, so it's usually the universe card, or the world, the tau. Okay, and so then that's going to do it for our doctrine section. Which definitely gives us some interesting theory on the idea of the great work. But now let's see what he's got to say in the rituals section. Okay, so chapter 12, the great work. To be ever rich, to be always young, and to die never. Such from all time has been the dream of alchemists. To change lead, mercury, and other metals into gold, to possess the universal medicine and the elixir of life, such is the problem which must be solved to accomplish this desire and to realize this dream. Like all magical mysteries, the secrets of the great work have a triple meaning. They are religious, philosophical, and natural. Philosophical gold in religion is the absolute and supreme reason. In philosophy, it is in truth. In visible nature, it is the sun. In the subterranean and mineral world, it is the purest and most perfect gold. Hence, the search after the great work is called the search for the absolute, and this work itself is termed the operation of the sun. And we've got a note saying, in another place, Éliphas Lévi formulates 4 characters of the absolute in the following terms. The absolute is truth, reality, reason, justice. Truth is the identity of being with the idea formed concerning it. Reality is the identity of being with knowledge thereof. Reason is the identity of being with the word which gives it expression. Justice is the identity of being with action, from La Science d'Esprit. And the essence of the absolute escapes in these definitions. All masters of science recognize that it is impossible to achieve material results until we have found the plenary analogies of the universal medicine and the philosophical stone in the 2 superior degrees. Then it is affirmed it is the labor simple, light, and inexpensive. Otherwise, it consumes to no purpose the life and fortune of the bellows blower. The universal medicine is, for the soul, supreme reason and absolute justice. For the mind, it is mathematical and practical truth. For the body, it is the quintessence, which is a combination of gold and light. In the superior world, the first matter of the great work is enthusiasm and activity. In the intermediate world, it is intelligence and industry. In the inferior world, it is labor. In science, it is sulfur, mercury, and salt, which volatilized and fixed alternately compose the azoth of the sages. Sulfur corresponds to the elementary form of fire, mercury to air and water, salt to earth. All masters in alchemy who have written concerning the great work have employed symbolical and figurative expressions and have been right in so doing, not only to deter the profane from operations which would be dangerous for them, but to make themselves intelligible to adepts by revealing the entire world of analogies which is ruled by the one and sovereign dogma of Hermes. For such, gold and silver are the sun and moon, or the king and queen. Sulfur is the flying eagle, Mercury is the winged and bearded hermaphrodite, throned upon a cube and crowned with flames. Matter, or salt, is the winged dragon. Metals in the molten state are lions of various colors. Finally, the whole work is symbolized by the pelican and phoenix. Hermetic art is, therefore, at one and the same time a religion, a philosophy, and a natural science. Let's repeat that one too. Hermetic art is, therefore, at one and the same time a religion, a philosophy, and a natural science. Considered as religion, it is that of the ancient magi and the initiates of all the ages. As a philosophy, its principles may be found in the school of Alexandria and in the theories of Pythagoras. As a science, its principles must be sought from Paracelsus, Nicholas Flamel, and Raymond Lully. The science is true only for those who accept and understand the philosophy and religion, while its processes are successful only for the adept who has attained sovereign volition and has thus become monarch of the elementary world. For the great agent of the solar work is that force described in the hermetic symbol of the emerald table. It is universal magical power. It is the igneous spiritual motor. It is the ode of the Hebrews and the astral light, according to the expression which we have adopted in this work. And a note says, compare la clef de grand mystery. This light, meaning the astral light, called or in Hebrew, is the fluid and live gold of Hermetic philosophy. Philosophical sulfur is its positive principle, philosophical mercury its negative, while its equilibrated principles form what is termed philosophical salt. Okay. There is the secret, living, and philosophical fire of which all Hermetic philosophers speak, only under the most mysterious reservations. There is the universal sperm, the secret of which they guarded, representing it only under the emblem of the caduceus of Hermes. Here, then, is the great Hermetic arcanum, and we reveal it for the first time clearly and devoid of mystical figures. That which the adepts term dead substances are bodies as found in nature. Living substances are those which have been assimilated and magnetized by the science and will of the operator. Therefore, the great work is something more than a chemical operation. It is an actual creation of the human word initiated into the power of the word of God himself. Okay, and then there's this Hebrew passage here, which I tried to get pulled back up, but it talks about the sun and the moon a bit. So if you feel inclined to try to look that up on your own, then go ahead. I encourage you to do so. I encourage you to certainly look more into things than just what we read here in these books, both within and without this Hebrew text, which we transcribe in proof of the authenticity and reality of our discovery, is derived from the rabbinical Jew Abraham, the master of Nicholas Flamel, and it is found in his occult commentary on the Sefer Yetzirah, the sacred book of the Kabbalah. And he's got a note saying Éliphas Lévi recurred later to this alleged proof of authenticity, making it abundantly evident, one, that he had discovered no great Hermetic arcanum, and two, that in reality he had demonstrated nothing. I give this putative elucidation in full as follows. Let us pass now to the secret of the great work, which appears in the ritual of Transcendental Magic only in unpointed Hebrew. Here is the whole text in Latin as it occurs at page 144 of the Sefer Yetzirah, with the commentary of the alchemist Abraham Amsterdam. Okay. Oh, wait, hang on. We got more that we got to flip over for real quick. Okay. So then it says, man, when those notes are so big, they carry over pages. That's all right. Okay. So Samhita 31, there's all the. Okay. So that's the Latin. Then I think it's in, French. But anyway, so here also is the translation in French of the Hebrew text as transcribed in our ritual. The 31st path is called the perpetual intelligence, and it rules the sun and moon and the other stars and figures, each in its respective orb. And it distributes that which is suitable to all created things according to their disposition in respect of the signs and figures. It will be seen, said Éliphas Lévi, that this text is still perfectly obscure for those who do not know the characteristic value of each of the 32 paths. The 32 paths are the 10 numerations and 22 hieroglyphical letters of the Kabbalah. The 31st refers to the letter Shin, which represents the magical lamp or light between the horns of Baphomet. It is the Kabbalistic sign of Od, otherwise the astral light, with its two poles and its equilibrated center. We know that in alchemical language the sun signifies gold, the moon silver, and that the other stars or planets are referable to the other metals. It is possible now to comprehend the thought of Abraham the Jew. The secret of fire of the masters in alchemy was therefore electricity, and this is a full half of their great secret. But they knew how to equilibrate its force by a magnetic influence which they concentrated in their Athanor. It is this which emerges from the obscure dogmas of Basil Valentine, Bernard Trevisan, and Heinrich Kunrath, who all claim to have performed transmutation like Raymond Lully, Arnold de Villanova, and Nicholas Flamel. All right, from La Clef de Grand Mystery. So now we got to flip back. This commentary is extremely rare, but the sympathetic potencies of our chain led us to discover a copy which has been preserved since the year 1643 in the Protestant church at Rouen. On its first page, there is written ex dono, then an illegible name followed by de magni. The creation of gold in the great work takes place by transmutation and multiplication. Raymond Lully states that in order to make gold, we must have gold and mercury, while in order to make silver, we must have silver and mercury. Then he adds, by mercury, I understand that mineral spirit, which is so refined and purified that it gilds the seed of gold and silvers the seed of silver. Doubtless, he is here speaking of Od or astral light. Salt and sulfur are serviceable in the work only for the preparation of mercury. It is with mercury above all that the magnetic agent must be assimilated and as if incorporated. Paracelsus, Raymond Lully, and Nicholas Flamel seem alone to have understood this mystery perfectly. Basil Valentine and Trevisan indicated after an incomplete manner which might be capable of another interpretation. But the most curious things which we have found on this subject are indicated by the mystical figures and magical legends in a book of Henry Kunrath entitled Amphitheatrum Sapente Aeternae. Kunrath represents and resumes the most learned Gnostic schools and connects in symbology with the mysticism of Synesius. He affects Christianity in expressions and in signs, but it is easy to see that his Christ is the Abraxas, the luminous pentagram radiating on the astronomical cross. The incarnation in humanity of the sovereign Son celebrated by Emperor Julian. Kunrath was a Christian theosophist of his period, which was the second half of the 16th century, and his Christ was God incarnate as Jesus of Nazareth. Okay, it is the luminous and living manifestation of that Ruach Elohim, which according to Moses brooded and worked upon the bosom of the waters at the birth of the world. It is the man-son, the monarch of light, the supreme magus, the master and conqueror of the serpent, and in the fourfold legend of the evangelists, Kunrath finds the allegorical key of the great work. One of the pentacles of his magical book represents the philosophical stone erected in the middle of a fortress surrounded by a wall in which there are 20 impracticable gates. One alone conducts to the sanctuary of the great work. Above the stone there is a triangle placed upon a winged dragon, and on the stone is graven the name of Christ, qualified as the symbolical image of all nature. It is by him alone, he adds, that thou canst obtain the universal medicine for men, animals, vegetables, and minerals. The winged dragon, dominated by the triangle, represents therefore the Christ of Kunrath, that is, the sovereign intelligence of light and life. It is the secret of the pentagram. It is the highest dogmatic and practical mystery of traditional magic. Thence unto the grand and ever incommunicable maxim there is only one step. The Kabbalistic figures of Abraham the Jew, and a note says, we have seen previously that according to Éliphas Lévi, Flamel's book of Abraham the Jew was the Aish Mezaref, a collection of Latin paragraphs apart from figures of any kind and neither approximately nor remotely connected with tarot keys. Okay, so the Kabbalistic figures of Abraham the Jew, which imparted to Flamel the first desire for knowledge, are no other than the 22 keys of the tarot, imitated and resumed elsewhere in the 12 keys of Basil Valentine. There, the sun and moon reappear under the figures of emperor and empress. Mercury is the juggler. The great Hierophant is the adept or abstractor of the quintessence. Death, judgment, love, the dragon or devil, the hermit or lame elder, and finally, all the remaining symbols are to be found with their chief attributes almost in the same order. Dang, he called the hermit the lame elder. It could have been scarcely otherwise, since the tarot is the primeval book and the keystone of the occult sciences. It must be hermetic because it is Kabbalistic, magical, and theosophical. So also we find by combining its 12th and 22nd keys, superposed one upon the other, the hieroglyphic revelation of the solution of the grand work and its mysteries. The 12th key represents a man hanging by one foot from a gibbet composed of 3 trees or posts, forming the Hebrew letter Tau. The man's arms and head constitute a triangle, and his entire hieroglyphical shape is that of a reverse triangle surmounted by a cross, an alchemical symbol known to all adepts and representing the accomplishment of the great work. Okay, and a footnote on that says, alchemy derived all its signs from the Kabbalah, and its operations were based on the law of analogies resulting from the harmony of opposites. Moreover, the Kabbalistic parables of antiquity veiled an immense physical secret, which secret we have been enabled to decipher, and we surrender the letter of it to the investigations of makers of gold as follows. 1. The four imponderable fluids are but diverse manipulations of a single universal agent, which is light. 2. Light is the fire which is employed in the great work under the form of electricity. 3. Human will directs the vital light by means of the nervous apparatus, an operation which is termed magnetizing at the present day. 4. The secret agent of the great work, or azoth of the sages, the living and vivifying gold of philosophers, the metallic universal producing agent is magnetized electricity. Therefore, to all who demand what is the greatest agent of prodigies, we reply, it is the first matter of the great work. It is magnetized electricity, from Le Clef de Grand Mystery. It must be said that magnetized electricity is a proposition from the world of nonsense. Oh man, we see a lot of propositions from the world of nonsense out here. The 22nd key, which bears the number 21 because the fool which precedes it carries no numeral, represents a youthful female divinity veiled slightly and running in a flowering circle supported at four corners by the four beasts of the Kabbalah. In the Italian tarot, this divinity has a rod in either hand. In the Besançon tarot, the two wands are in one hand while the other is placed upon her thigh, both equally remarkable symbols of magnetic action, either alternate in its polarization or simultaneous by opposition and transmission. The great work of Hermes is therefore an essentially magical operation and the highest of all, for it supposes the absolute in science and volition. There is light in gold, gold in light, and light in all things. The intelligent will, which assimilates the light, directs in this manner the operations of substantial form and uses chemistry solely as a secondary instrument. Okay. All right, I got to hurry and wrap up. The influence, I think I'm almost done anyway. I think there's like one more page. The influence of human will and intelligence upon the operations of nature, dependent in part on its labor, is otherwise a fact so real that all serious alchemists have succeeded in proportion to their knowledge and their faith, and have reproduced their thought in the phenomena of the effusion, salification, and recomposition of metals. Agrippa, who was a man of immense erudition and fine genius, but pure philosopher and skeptic, could not transcend the limits of metallic analysis and synthesis. Attila, a confused, obscure, fantastic, but persevering Kabbalist, reproduced in alchemy the eccentricities of his misconstrued and mutilated tarot. Metals in his crucibles assumed extraordinary forms which excited the curiosity of all Paris, with no greater profit to the operator than the fees which were paid by his visitors. An obscure bellows blower of our own time who died mad, poor Louis Cambriel, really cured his neighbors, and by the evidence of all his parish, brought back to life a smith who was his friend. For him, the metallic work took the most inconceivable and apparently illogical forms. One day he beheld the figure of God himself in his crucible. Incandescent, like the sun, transparent as crystal, his body composed of triangular conglomerations which Cambriel naively compared to quantities of tiny pears. One of our friends, who is a learned Kabbalist but belongs to an initiation which we regard as erroneous, performed recently the chemical operations of the great work and succeeded in impairing his sight through the excessive brilliance of the athanor. He created a new metal which resembles gold but is not gold and hence has no value. Raymond Lully, Nicholas Flamel, and most probably Henry Kunrath made true gold, nor did they take away their secret with them. For it is enshrined in their symbols, and they have indicated, moreover, the sources from which they drew for its discovery and for the realization of its effects. It is this same secret which we ourselves make public now. All right, so that does it on the great work. So, yeah, I got to wrap up quickly because I got some stuff to attend to. But that was pretty good. If he says that the great work can be summed up in the Hanged Man tarot card, then perhaps you might find it beneficial to study the Hanged Man tarot card. But also, if he's um, connecting it with the Hebrew letter Tau, because the hangman kind of makes the shape of the Tau, at least in certain tarots, the way it's hanging there, then you might also want to study the world or the universe card alongside with your Hangman Tarot. You might find that to be beneficial. You might find that to be useful and appropriate. Kind of like not stressing yourself out about aspects of a game when you're not playing the game. But when you are playing the game, well, I don't know. Do you suck at the game? Is that why you want to reject the game so bad? Because you just suck at it? Well, that's fine, I guess. I guess if you really just suck at the game so bad, then yeah, no wonder you don't want to play it and you want to throw the console at the wall and you want to talk about this is just a game, this is stupid. Um, Otherwise, why wouldn't you just want to play the game and have fun? That's what it was designed for, right? Or if we kind of compare this whole incarnation to like a ride at an amusement park, like the oh, who was that? Bill Hicks who said that? It's just a ride. Well, some roller coasters are scary as heck, man. You go on some roller coasters and you want to cry and scream, let me off now. But guess what? They're not stopping the ride for you because you're a little baby. Guess what? You got to finish that ride. You got to ride it to the end and then you get off and then you can go cry and whine about it all you want and talk about why would they make a ride like that? Boo hoo hoo. Or you might just puke. I remember one of the first times I rode a roller coaster with some loop-de-loops and all that. I went right to the trash can, threw up, and then I said, let's go do it again, baby. So, but I get it, it's not for, there's certain rides I don't want to go on, like ones that are just designed to make you super dizzy and spin you around a bunch. Not my type of ride, but I know other people love those type of rides. So when it comes to those type of rides, well, then maybe I'm being a little baby, but also I don't really find it fun to just get dizzy as opposed to like have a bunch of exciting climbs and drops and maybe a loop here and maybe a corkscrew there. That can get you a little dizzy, but you know the ones I'm talking about, the ones where you literally just like sit and spin yourself around in a circle over and 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 over again. Well, that is kind of what this particular incarnation, human incarnation, kind of sort of does. Study that universe tarot and what else you might get from it. Although it's a little more slow and drawn out. So hey, and that's just a comparison. You know what I mean? We've got all kind of analogies we can make. It's like a video game, it's like a Matrix, it's like a ride in an amusement park, or it's just like being a human being. But okay, I gotta quit yapping. I gotta get ready. But once your goddess says, I noticed the Hierophant is sitting like the Hangman too. Huh? Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, he's sitting upright, but I'm sure if we put them in a similar predicament, then I think you're onto something. I think you're onto something, One True Goddess. I appreciate you and your contributions to this stream, without a doubt. So thank you very much. And I'm wishing you a wonderful day. LaShawn Q, I hope you hung around. I hope you found this to be beneficial. Everybody else, I appreciate you all. I talk a bit of smack, but again, if you're not here to up your game and you're just here to be in like an echo chamber and confirmation bias and all of that, then, well, you're kind of missing the point. Anyway, all right. Yep, I got to go. And I appreciate you. No problem at all. Once you got us, thank you as well for your support, for your contributions to this channel. And and everybody else as well. I know not everybody gets to catch this in the live, but I know a lot of you catch it on a replay. So without a doubt, I appreciate you a lot. If you feel a little called out by what I say, look, I'm really not trying to get your feelings that hurt. You know what I mean? More than anything, I'm just trying to get like that. That's part of what caused me to grow along my path is I was lucky enough, what I consider lucky enough, to encounter teachers that didn't just let me stay trapped in an echo chamber of confirmation bias, that actually really challenged me to be like, don't just say things to say things. Don't just believe things because you want it to be true. Like, really get to the bottom of these things, really understand what these things are trying to teach you. And I know I've benefited from it greatly, so I can hope the same for others by maybe taking a similar approach. But all right then, everybody, I gotta go. I really gotta go this time. Much love, many blessings. This has been Jay Baldell, and this has been Éliphas Lévi's Transcendental Magic. It's Doctrine and Ritual telling us all about the great work. See you next time. Bye.